Good afternoon. Today I'm going to discuss purchasing cattle for your homestead, whether that homestead be existing already and you've got some other animals and would like to add beef cattle. I'm not going to discuss purchasing dairy cattle. I'm not familiar enough with them. I don't know what it takes to sustain them or to become profitable with that. So I'm going to talk about primarily purchasing beef cattle. I've got a couple different scenarios here that I'll kind of show you. This is probably going to be long as well, so I'm going to have to break it up into more than one part. I'll try to be as thorough as I can be, but it's not extensive. There may be things that I've missed. I've really tried to think of most everything that it's going to take to get started. That said, I may have missed something. Um, I may have kind of shorted some of the things. Additionally, there may be things that you already have that are not going to be necessary. So you'll just need to kind of think about that as I'm talking through this and going through. If your homestead has already got corrals that will hold cattle, or if you've already got the equipment, head gate or squeeze chutes or things like that, then those things won't pertain to you. If you have pasture, you don't really need to focus so much on that. I can't give you specifics on how much pasture will sustain cows. And the reason being is every area has got a different climate, how much grass they get, how much grass is on the land itself, whether that be irrigated, not irrigated, or whatever. So I'm going to just kind of use what I have locally. Again, I won't be able to tell you how much it's going to sustain the animals, but I will give you some thoughts on pasture itself, if it is able to sustain one cow or five cows or whatever. I'm also going to talk about the purchase of the animals, things to think about when you're going to purchase, some some him some ideas that will help you in getting a good set of cows to start with. I'm primarily focusing on cows themselves. I'm assuming that you're looking for something that is not only more than just annual, you're looking at something that's going to be sustainable, that you can continue on, and each year will become closer and closer to more profitable. If not completely profitable, at least covering the costs of the animals and the feed themselves. So I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover some ideas for bulls, different ways to maybe not purchasable, or different things that if you do purchasable, things you're really going to have to think about when you have a bull on your property. I'm also going to cover medications, vaccinations for the animals. The animals have several things that they're prone to, whether that be blackleg or bovine respiratory disease or multiple other different things. So we do vaccinate regularly for these things. You may purchase cows that the owner or the seller has already vaccinated with. So that's something to ask if you're purchasing from an individual. If you're purchasing from a livestock auction, sometimes the sellers will list the vaccinations they've given. Sometimes the owners will not do that. If they've not done that, then I would highly recommend vaccinating your animals, giving them the booster that's required, and then following through annually on the vaccinations that are required in your area or that work best for your area. I'm going to cover pasture, whether that be pasture you have on your homestead, some pasture that the owner is willing to lease to you, um, or different ideas for that. I'm not going to tell you how many cows each pasture is going to be able to sustain, because every part of the country is completely different. I know that in Wyoming, pasture typically doesn't support nearly as many animals as someplace like Oklahoma, where they have a lot of grass, a really nice heavy grass with a decent amount of rainfall and that kind of thing. Additionally, I'm going to cover some of the equipment you're going to need for those vaccinations. Some of it may not be required to start with. You may be able to just use syringes themselves rather than like a repeating syringe. But I'll give you the options of the tools that we use to vaccinate and give the different medications to the animals. I'm also going to cover livestock handling equipment, which is anything from corrals to working pens to alleys, lead ups, squeeze chutes, head gates, and different things you're going to need if you have a couple of animals or more than one animal, or even just one animal. With one animal, it's not quite as necessary because you may be able to get them into a stanchion or a small little area where the animal can't move much. You know, it may take you 45 minutes to give that one shot, but it's only that one animal, so it's less important to have all the equipment necessary for the working of the cattle to vaccinate, to worm, to put on, pour on, or different things. I'm also going to discuss trailering equipment. Um, I'm going to discuss this just briefly, only because if you're on your own, you don't know anyone, you go to a livestock auction, you're going to need a trailer to bring the animals home. Additionally, when you get to the point of either selling animals or taking animals to a butcher to be processed, you're going to need a way to haul those animals. If you have a friend or you know someone with the trailer, or someone that you're going with someone else to a livestock auction and they've got a trailer, you know, you may be able to work at a deal to do those things together. Let's take a look at some of the other notes. So, with your homestead, I'm going to assume that you've got, say, 5 acres. And that's just trying to give you an idea of how much that may or may not sustain, how you can do that. I know here in Wyoming, 5 acres won't sustain a lot of animals. You may be able to have 5 cows out on the property. Say if you've divided it to where you've got 4 acres of pasture and you've cut it in half and got 2 acres and 2 acres. That's not going to support 5 cows, to be honest. You'll probably still have to supplement. You may be able to sustain them for short periods, but you're still probably going to have to supplement your cows as well. I know that my cows are on, geez, I think it's like 160, and we've got 25, and they do pretty good from June to September, but they start getting really thin. There's not enough grass prior to that, and the grass itself is really thinning out by that time in September. Um, but we'll cover a couple of different ideas on that. Additionally, I'm going to assume that you'll need to build corrals, working pens, and that kind of thing. It's just the reason I'm assuming that you need to build these things or put these things in place is to give you a better idea of how much it's going to cost to create a corral, set up some panels for a working area, set up a an alley, to purchase a head gate, and much of the equipment that's involved in purchasing all these the for working the cattle themselves. Um, I'm not expecting you to keep your animals in a corral all the time. Typically, what we will do is we'll keep the calves in there, or bulls, or different things to isolate different animals from the rest of the herd at different times. Say we've got a mama cow and a baby that's not real strong. We'll put them in there to isolate them, and we can feed them. If you're familiar with my channel at all, right now I do have one cow calf pair. She kept very late, and I've got her separated and isolated in a separate corral area to ensure she's getting everything she needs. I'm going to assume that you're not going to purchase a bull. There's a lot that comes with purchasing a bull and maintaining a bull. Bulls can tear up a lot of fence. They'll tear up corrals. They can be a real problem. So I'm just going to assume that you don't purchase a bull, that you either lease a bull or you find someone who's willing to have you put your cows with his cows for 3 months, 2 months to 3 months, to ensure they all get bred by his bull. Or something like that. There are multiple different options to cover a bull, that you're not paying for the feed for the bull all year. You're not having to fix fence all the time. You're not having to continually water and feed him individually or things like that. Because bulls can truly be very problematic in that they become very large, and if they smell a cow that is cycling, they'll tear some equipment up to get to that cow. They can end up weighing 2,500 pounds, maybe a little more, depending on what type of breed you have. And I'll tell you, they can be a wrecking machine. They'll go through barbed wire like it's kite string. To be honest, they'll just go right through it and never slow them down. As I mentioned earlier about like with the trailer and trailer equipment, I'm going to assume that in your area you're familiar with or know a rancher locally, whether he or she has got 5 cows or 100 cows, whatever. I'm going to assume that you're going to ask them to go with you to a livestock auction or even to a purchase of cows, or if you're purchasing some from him or whatever that may be. I'm going to assume that he's going to help you in um, making the purchase itself and also for the use of the trailer and equipment. So that trailer is going to save you. I would recommend that in the future you purchase a trailer, and you can find some trailers out there. Again, depending on where you are and what part of the country you're in, anywhere from 3,500 to 45, maybe $5,500. You'll be able to purchase a trailer. I'm not sure that that's necessary to start with, unless you know absolutely no one with the trailer and you have no means of getting these animals to your house other than purchasing a trailer. Just know that if you do purchase a trailer, it's a great big addition to getting started. Um, as I discussed on the bulls, there are a couple of different ways of breeding your cows back each year that can be cost prohibitive, or you can do it. There are a couple different ideas that I've got that you can use to ensure that your cows get bred back each year. Uh, Typically, you can lease a bull locally. I know there are a couple places where I live that you can lease a bull itself. There'll be places that literally deal specifically with bulls alone. They'll have a very good record of the bull itself, size of the bull, what size calves it produces typically, and how quickly the calves put on weight, whether they are sickly, how viable the bull is. Say he's got a 90% success rate or a 40% success rate, different things like that. So these people are going to have a lot of information, and they can be very helpful for you if you do decide to go that route and leasable. Typically to leasable, you're looking at anywhere from 250 to $300 a month. Now, if you get a really champion type bloodline or a really well known sire that produces exceptionally, you may pay more than that, but I'm just going to assume that you pay 250 a month, and it's going to be for 3 months typically. You don't want to leave the bull out there and spread out your calving to where you're calving in January or February, unless unless that's your very specific plan on breeding. Another option for bulls, as I said, was if you do know a rancher locally and he's got a bull or he's got two bulls or whatever, you may be able to work out a deal that you can take your 5 cows, put them in his pasture with his cows, and let his bull breed your cows. That would be a really good option if you don't want to buy a bull or different things like that. That's another option to consider. Just make sure you understand all the things that are going to be involved with it, because many times a rancher will have, okay, he's going to bring his cows, so these are the things that I expect from this person, whether that be just paying for the bull fee itself, the 250 a month, or whether that mean you have to provide hay or feed, additional minerals, supplements for your animals. If he works his animals during that time frame, if you're going to be involved, or different things. Just make sure you ask as many questions as you can before you get into that. I just had one more thing to talk about before I move on to the next phase. Is there is one one thing to consider that many people don't consider, is, again, if you have a friend that has a ranch, has some cows and that kind of thing, you may be able to work out a deal with that person to put your cows in with his cows for that first year. There are going to be multiple things you're going to have to discuss, prices, different things like that. But I do know that when I first got into cows, because I was gone so much and that kind of thing, and my neighbor had a bunch of cows, um, it worked out really well for me because he actually helped me purchase the cows, things like that. My cows remained in there, and we'd worked out a deal that I help feed. I every time he goes to work the animals, I'm there. So that I was a very I was a helper to him, going working through all of his cows and different things like that. Many times, if you go that route, that rancher may not require that you pay him cash. Many times they will take it from the calves that you have each year. So if you've got, say, I'm going to use 6 just for ease sake of this right now, but if he decides, and if you agree that he gets 50% of the calves in the spring when they calve, he'll take 3 calves, you'll take 3 calves, and everyone ends up in a good position. Something that I would say to that is for relations. Many times, what I will do is if I've got 6 cows with his cows and he's taking 50%, many times I'll keep 1 steer for myself, and I will try to ensure that he gets some of the better calves, um, just to ensure that he knows he's not getting the short end of the stick. Because it takes a lot of work to take care of these animals, fixing his own fence, his own working the animals themselves, his own equipment, the feed involved, feeding in the winter, all the different things that come along with that. So I try to ensure that they are happy at the end when we go to divvy up calves. I want him to know that he didn't get the 3 scrawniest, wimpiest calves that are kind of in poor condition to start with. I want our relationship to stay good. So I will ensure that I take 1 good calf for myself, but I'll try to give him the next couple that are in better shape. You'll go really far by working with people and making them feel that they got a good deal. You'll go much farther than giving them the 3 smallest calves and the relationship turning sour in the long run. You really don't want to do that, especially if you're in a rural community. You want everyone to know that you treat people fairly and do well by them. So when you're going to purchase cattle, there are a multitude of different ways that you can purchase cattle. You can purchase strictly steers. Um, a steer is a male cow which has been banded or cut, neutered, basically, if you're familiar with dogs and cats. So at that point, he's no longer viable, meaning he can't breed cows or anything like that. Typically, people would do that because it makes the animals easier to handle. They kind of lose that breeding mindset, which makes them feel more dominant and that kind of thing. Bulls can be difficult to handle. Um, Steers are much easier to handle. That said, for what I'm talking about today, I didn't go with steers. The reason I didn't go with steers is I'm kind of looking at your homestead as something that, so I went with this so that it will be more sustainable. Each year, you'll be able to hold back one of the calves for yourself, for your own freezer, for your family, etc. And you'll be able to sell off the other animals, however you decide to do that, whether you sell them at 6 months or a year or whatever that may be. There's so many different ways to try to cash out on your calves or just cows in general that I really didn't go into which way to go to sell the product, being the calves. I didn't go into ways of doing that because you can take them just to the livestock auction and sell them at 6 months. You can hold them for a year and sell them to a feedlot. You can hold them until you finish them out entirely and sell them for like a full beef from the butcher, half beef, beef bundles, or just a multitude of different ways. So I didn't lock in any particular way on selling the calves themselves. All I looked at was if you keep 1 animal back for yourself each year, I do show how much the what the value is of 1 full beef, and I cover the packaging and the disposal fees and different things that are associated with taking your animal to the butcher shop. So what I did is I come up with the total cost of expenditures to get started, and then I add the packaging and all of the butcher fees, and then I take off the value of that one steer or finished heifer or whatever that is that you're keeping for yourself. So we've covered steers. Another way to purchase an animal is to buy heifers. Heifers are a female cow, but they've not had a calf yet. So they're young. They may be bred now, but they've never had a calf. I didn't use um, that means of purchasing cows. The reason I didn't go that route is because I would hope that you'll get a little more experience under your belt before going with heifers. Heifers can be very problematic when they calve. Their pelvis and their hips have never expanded due to the birthing of a calf. So many times they'll lose a calf. Many times they won't be able to deliver the calf. You're going to have to really get in there and get your hands dirty. Um, and then if she successfully calves, she may reject the calf. They may not have good mothering skills or whatever, and they may reject the calf entirely, which really becomes a whole new problem. Now you've got to bottle feed this calf and things like that. So again, I didn't go with heifers just because they can be equally as problematic as bulls can be. Once you've got some time under your belt and you've got some experience calving and different things like that, knowing, hey, I'm noticing these things, this cow or this heifer is off by itself. You can see that she's starting to get swollen or jiggly or whatever you may call it, and different indicators that the cow or heifer is starting to get close to calving. Um, Even after you've got a few years under your belt, calving with a heifer can still be problematic. So I didn't go that route. I just went with mature cows. There are a different kind of cow as well. When you go to the sale barn, they're called ST or short-term cows. These are female cows that have already calved, but they're up in age, or they've eaten on an area that has got a lot of gravel and fine rock and that kind of thing. So their teeth are very worn. They can be a real problem for feeding because they're not able to get good grass, or they're not able to break down hay or different things. Additionally, they are exactly what they're called. They're a short-term animal, meaning you may get one calf, you may get 6 months out of the animal, you may get 3 years out of the animal due to its age, and the other conditions it has. Pardon me. But they are exactly that. They're a short-term animal, and I didn't go that route either for the same reasons as private or previously mentioned with the steers and that kind of thing. I'm trying to help, looking at you trying to develop and build up a small herd of cows and create something that is sustainable with less chances of problems overall. So I avoided short-term cows. Okay, I hope you can see this clearly enough. I'm going to try to stay out of the way so that I can just cover some of the prices. I'll kind of stand off to the side and I'll point to the prices and what I'm discussing at the time. Um, but again, this is basically at the top. You'll see that this is the prices from the 5 September sale. And I use that sale is because it did have a good amount of cows rather than just calves that they were selling. They also had several heifers. I'm going to tell you the prices of everything in this. But again, I don't recommend heifers. I don't recommend bulls. If you want to just go the route of steers to start with, then that's fine as well. I've got the prices here, but again, I'm looking at a good cow for sustainability for your ranch, as opposed to steers or heifers or different things like that. So in September, on the sale, 5 September, a heifer that weighed about 1,000 pounds was selling for $2,092. You can see that here. So if you were to carry that $2,092 for that 1,000-pound heifer, and if you were to purchase 5 heifers, again, these are not bred animals, so you have to wait until the proper time to breed them so that they calve when you want them to calve. So these are not bred animals. If you were to get 5 heifers up front at that same price, the cost would be the cost for those 5 heifers would be approximately $10,000 $500 plus or minus. Um, the next one you can see is I've got what I'm calling prime cows. Those cows are going to be anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe 7 years old. They've still got a lot of life in them. They're in really good condition, and um, they are going to be something that you can use as a foundation to continue growing your operation or doing whatever you want in the future. So, 1,400 pound cows. I used two different ones. The first one was 140 a pound for a 1,400 pound cow. Price on her was just under $2,000. Just know that if you do get these from a livestock auction, that is going to go up a little bit because they have additional fees. They have to test the blood. They have to get their little auction percentage and so on and so forth. So if you went with 5 cows, the price was $1.38 a pound at 1,400 pound cows. So the price for those 5 cows, which are not bred, remember, is $9,800. If you went with steers, a single steer weighing 455 pounds was selling for $3.29 a pound, or 329 per 100, however you want to look at it. And basically, a single steer was costing $1,500. So 5 steers would cost approximately $7,500. I did add bulls. A single bull that was 1,100 pounds was selling for $2.02 a pound, or to 100. And the reason I show the 1,100 pound bull is because he's not really big. So he would be good with younger animals. After a couple of years, you decide to get heifers that are unbred, or you decide to hold a few heifers back that are younger, that you think are nice animals. You don't want a 2,500 pound bull on a young heifer, because literally you can break their hip, you can throw their hip out of sockets, and you're damaging, you're literally injuring your own animal that you're trying to develop and keep, by getting a really heavy bull to start them with. For heifers and young animals, you always look for a smaller animal, if you can, a smaller bull to breed those to, because they are less likely to injure your heifers or smaller animals. Then I have, so the price of a 1,100 pound bull is going to be $2,200 plus or minus. If you went with a 16 or almost 1,700 pound bull, you can see the price is going to be about $150 per pound, bringing the price to about $2,500, $2,600 for a 1,700 pound bull. That bull is getting to be a pretty large bull, but most of your cows, if they've got some age on them and that kind of thing, and they're in good condition and they're strong, shouldn't have a problem with that. Myself personally, I would rather just keep a smaller bull and not have to deal with ever worrying about that I've broken a cow or anything like that. So getting on to the so moving on to our bred cows. Again, I didn't go with heifers for the reasons of calving and the problems that they may have, etc. The most recent bred cow sale that we had was the 25th of November in 2024. So a cow that was 4 to 6 years old, which I'm just going to call prime because that's a really good age range for cows. They're still young enough and vigorous enough to take a little stress of different things changing and so on and so forth. And you've got the longevity out of those animals. So those animals, weighing 1,046, we'll call it 1,050 pounds, they were selling for $2,400.35 a piece. So one cow is going to cost you a little over $2,400, closer to $2,450 after fees. If you were to get 5 at that same price for 5 cows in a good age group, you're looking at just over $12,000, $12,175. Again, you're going to be looking at additional fees. I did show short-term cows because I know that there are some people who may not be able to come up with quite that much money to start with. So they may feel that a bred short-term cow would be a good way to get started into it. So you got, if for example, you got 2 or 3 short-term cows, you were going to keep them for one cycle. sell them, sell your 2 calves, and then that would give you the money to purchase better cows, longer term cows. Um, I'm just trying to show you that it is an option, but I personally, it's not a route that I would go, especially with my work being away from home. So one short-term cow was selling for about $1,775. Now, if you compare that to your one um, good prime cow, she was 24.50, and that one is 17.75. So you can see that it's a 30% discount by buying that short-term animal. If you were to buy 5 short-term animals, you are looking at about $8,875. Again, it's about a 30% reduction in upfront costs. It's about a 30% reduction in upfront costs. So I hope you got something out of this. Um, I've covered a lot of stuff. As I said, if you'd like this Excel spreadsheet to kind of just help you along, I've got a lot of different notes for myself to help pass on information or that type of thing. So if you're interested in shooting off this Excel or just putting in the description, please let me know and I'll be glad to put it in the description. I only went as far as keeping your 5 cows with the neighbor. Um, I'll get into maintaining 5 cows at your place, what you're looking at for hay, grass, pasture, and the different things that you're looking at that. I've also got notes for that as well. Again, if you got anything out of this or if you liked it, please like, subscribe, and leave a message. I really do look forward to the messages. I'd love to hear what it costs for you if you're in Texas or Oklahoma or wherever. I really would like to hear comments about what I've told you or different things that I may have forgotten. If I've forgot something, please tell me. I would like to add it and ensure that everybody's got the most information possible. Thank you very much. Have a great day.